In the previous movie, we saw how ripple trims can help you improve the timing and pacing of a scene by working on one side of an edit at a time. Sometimes, however, it's beneficial to be able to manipulate both sides of the transition simultaneously, and this is called a roll edit. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to go into my 4.2 keyword collection, roll begin. And this is my montage set to music, and it's actually the exact same montage that we demonstrated when we talked about moving clips. So I'm going to go to this marker here, and I want to remind us of the situation that made us want to move this clip over. So we have that chord coming in here, and it'd be really nice to be able to match up the beginning of this shot with that musical moment. So before, we just moved it over, and we did that with a nudge. Let me just remind you of that. I'll select this clip, and then I'm going to nudge this over. I'll press period to keep moving it over. And as we do so, this shot gets shorter, and this shot gets longer to accommodate. And I'll play through this. And it works really well. A nudge solved that problem. But let me come downstream, and this again is the same issue that we saw before with wanting to match up the beginning of this shot to the start of the electric guitar. I'm going to go ahead and play through this for you. So right there where I've placed that marker is where that electric guitar comes in. But what happens if we nudge this over? I'll show you. You can probably guess, considering the length of the adjacent clip. I'm going to select the clip, and then I'll press my period key to nudge it over. And I've completely covered up this shot, and I'm not even far enough. So a nudge in this case isn't going to work. And we don't want to do a ripple trim to fix this, because if I rippled this out, we may have solved the problem here. But we added all those frames to the sequence, so what happened downstream? Everything is out of sync down here. So again, let's undo that. When you're manipulating transitions like this, you always want to check out what's going on to the left and to the right and downstream of the change that you're making. So in this case, what would probably be best is if we just moved this transition point to the desired location. And I'm going to do that with a roll edit. So I'm going to change my tool to the trim tool, keyboard shortcut T. So I'll press T, and then I'm going to click on this transition. Remember, when we clicked on a transition before with our select tool, we could only select one side of the transition at a time. But with the trim tool, we can select both at a time, and I can move this down, and the only change that's happening is on this transition point only. Now, this shot is getting shorter, this one is getting longer, and everything else is remaining the same. And we've solved our issue. Let me undo that, Command-Z. I also want to mention that when you're making a roll edit, the keyboard shortcuts work, so I can use my period key to go 1 frame to the right, my comma key to go 1 frame to the left, shift period will go 10 frames to the right, shift comma will go 10 frames to the left. The extend edit also works, so if this edit is selected, I can just move my skimmer to the desired cut point and press Shift X, and I've made my edit. So for a montage like this that's set to music, doing roll trims is very, very common because you don't want to mess anything up downstream, so you don't want to add frames to the entire sequence. Rather, you want these trims to be very local, to only affect one specific area. And with roll trims, that's what you're doing. You're only affecting this transition point, and the only clips you have to worry about are the adjacent clips. So as you can see, using both ripples and rolls to get your video and audio just right is easy to do and makes a big difference.